Wednesday the 8th of April, so really it's main batch time. There's probably opportunity now and in 2 weeks time, which will take another 2 weeks for these to probably recover, if I need to get the numbers that we need. The ones in the propagators will probably make for early plants. This batch that I take today will be the main one, and then any that I can get within 2 weeks after will just about make it in. So we've got what we took 2 weeks ago in there, and they've pretty much rooted. So they'll get a week probably out on the open bench. We've got a list, so I can start filling in these boxes to give myself some idea what I have got, and we'll go from there. Obviously I've had a problem with some compost that I potted last week, about 400 plants, and the compost I think was too rich, being peat free. I think it built up too much nitrogen and scorched the roots, so I've got to see if I can rescue the tops out of those. I'll show you those later. But we've got about 450 in the propagators. Hopefully I've filled enough trays, or hopefully not. There's enough trays there for about 700, and we've got these mother plants and that to take apart and get to where we need to be. I'll carry on. Those of you that see my Instagram posts would have seen this. Yesterday, last week, I potted into a new compost. Well, it's not new, but it's a different compost to me, and they really didn't like it. It's a peat-free compost, and I think it's just built up too much nitrogen, and the young roots gone into it have scorched. The odd clumps of good-looking plants are ones that I've moved in that I'd potted just before into my usual Jets Magic. So I'm going to see if I can rescue some of these by taking the tops out of them and adding them to the main batch, but there's not a lot of hope for some of them. And then here we've got earlier plants that were potted. Some I've already had the tops out of, and some I might be able to get the sides out in another week's time if I need to, but these will be tops as well. And these really are going in the bin. They were that first batch that got caught by the frost. They never really did recover, and they're just taking up space now, so time to move them on and out. So we get on. So that's done. 670 today, plus the 500 that were before. I only know that because I've written it down. So pretty much I think I'm going to make numbers. Some of them are going to be tight like Winom. 36, I've taken 50. They've got a root yet as well. Ruskin 75. Tracy Dine, what's that, about 135. 15 of the dark, it's been a struggle. So plenty of Gertler, Mary's Jamanda. Most of these are going to get the numbers I'm looking for. They're going to be about 1200, so hopefully enough to grow on to sell at work, as we do in the bigger pots, and sort out any commitments I may already have. So single layer fleece are the ones that mostly dyings that were taken 2 weeks ago and haven't quite rooted or just starting to. This is what I took today. I took a much smaller cutting, just so they don't lose too much moisture, and it's got 2 layers of fleece over. I've sprayed them and I've just put the watering can over the top rows just to dampen the fleece. And then these are all ones that have rooted, the easy rooters like Gertler and Narrowstrisha and things like that, or are not far off, and they can stay out from under the fleece. And obviously the ones in there and there are taken today as well, so there's 200 in each of the Vitapods. So we're there nearly. We've chucked out the trays of tubers outside. I'm just gonna hope they all root, which I'm pretty sure they will do. And tomorrow morning or evening I've got to take the Narrowstrisha or another batch of Narrowstrisha. I just ran out of time today. The pub is calling. See you soon. Wednesday the 16th, potting time. So I've got my trays, my pots the cuttings and compost, so I can just pot into the tray. Tray goes behind me into this space, a little bit tight in here, and then when I've got a couple of trays I'll walk them out to the pop-up tunnels. And these are the cuttings that I took off or out the propagators last week. Probably could have done it a couple of days ago, but Wednesdays is my day off and that's the time I have. So there's probably about 400 or so to put up, which are best part fill the tunnel. Got the important bit, my radio, and these were last week's cuttings, which are just starting to turn colour. And the ones under the fleece, I would say, are probably doing best out of all of them. I've had a few hot days, so probably being that you see those little girdlers have even got some change of colour in the foliage. So I think in the really hot days, 20 degrees, it gets a bit warm and bright in here. The cuttings under the fleece probably do better because of the airflow, and the ones that are sort of enclosed, not so well, but they're all rooting and they're all doing fine, as you can see. But it's just easier to, I suppose, keep them cool. Where now we've got a bit of overcast, a bit windy, a bit cool. The ones in the Vitapods will probably do better. Yeah, potting day. We'll see how we get on. One thing I meant to point out is that up until now I've been potting into square pots like these, and these have been some other plants. In fact, there is a few there that I may well take today just to top me up on that variety, but these are going into round pots, and the reason is one, so I know which batch is which. If I want to pot these plants up, and certainly the early batch may get to that point, then potting a slightly smaller rounded pot into a 5-inch pot is a bit easier than effectively a 4-inch square. Doesn't leave much room. The squares are really more for if I'm going to leave them in there, because they're unlikely to be plants that I would plant out. Then they're in a slightly bigger pot for pot tuber production, where these are nearly all likely to go into the ground or be given to societies for plant sales, etc. So it's an easier way of identifying which batch is which. So there'll be 2 batches potted in the round pots, which are the ones behind me and the ones rooting now, and there's several batches, albeit smaller, that are in square pots on a fill-in one cover that we'll look at later. That's that done. Just in time to make it to the pub at 3. So there's about 400 in there. I've closed the back door just to stop the wind hustling in on them. I'm going to put a couple of trays in there with the topped plants, which I'll have to move out in about 2 weeks' time when I do this lot. I've just nicked a last minute 20 plants to start dying off my mother plants, and another 20 Barbary Surprise. So hopefully building up some pot tuber stock as well to replace the 30 plants that I potted 2 weeks ago that went in that dodgy compost and died. And then on here, which has still got heat under it, are ones that are just rooted or not quite rooted but look like they was going to, and that's mostly dyings. There's a tray of dark there, Winholm and Ruskin, being funny like they are, but hopefully they'll root, and when I see roots out the bottom I'll move them into the tunnels out there. So we've still got the 700 odd in the propagators to root, which by my calculations fills the other tunnel up and the greenhouse as well when they get potted. So that's probably about the max I can do, but they're looking alright, and particularly the ones under the fleece, which I'm quite pleased about. So we'll just get these tucked up for the night, tidy up, and then go and celebrate with a pint of amber nectar. Welcome to the extension. It's about the 23rd of April. We need to get this done. I've been putting it off while I've been taking cuttings and potting. So we're starting to dig, just turning the grass on its head. That's all we can do really. And turning this into one plot. Other two are still ready to go and clean. But this might be an all-day job. An all day and then some, we shall see. That's it, 2:30, so it was about 4.5 hours to do that, which feels like it was longer. My arms and back certainly feels like it was longer, but it's done. It's not bad. Tilth, soil breaks up. All the grass has just been turned upside down on its head. Most of that will die. Probably got 4 weeks before I need to think about planting anything in here, so I'll let the weed seeds germinate and then just run over with a bit of weed killer, and I'll probably take some soil off of these plots, particularly the path areas, and just top up. I'll level up the area with that, and it'll save me banging my head on the timber as I walk up and down the paths. Let's see, back to the greenhouse soon, I think. Sunday the 27th of April, had a bit of a Sunday morning sort out before work starts. So this tunnel's now got the old plants in. Some of them still got the tops in, but others haven't where they've been used. So these will go up, probably up the top onto the nursery bit to grow on as bigger plants for selling at the garden centre. The tubers have been tidied to the front of the polytunnels. This batch is the batch that we potted on about 10 days ago. So there's 400 in there, and they're just settling in now. And then this morning we've got some hot weather coming, so I've took the bubble insulation off the top of the greenhouse, maximum light, so I can open the vents as well to air. I've took everything out of the pods that has rooted, so there's about 700 here, and these will be potted up Wednesday. Nice little batch of got the twilight there all rooted, and then we've still got some in here which includes the last 40 taken today of something I'll be a bit short of. I want some pot tuber stock of, so those are just in there. So there's about 800 altogether in here, and hopefully I can just keep them from running up. Some of these nose Trisha are starting to stretch a bit, so bit of extra light in here. The heat mat is still on, so that will just keep a bit of bottom heat, but I will just turn that down, I think, and see what happens. Wednesday the 30th of April, main potting day, so we've got this one empty ready to fill up. Had to tidy up, tubes are outside. These were potted 2 weeks ago, and some of those may well be useful. And then we've got this lot to pot, so I've just cleared the propagating bench up there, so I've got a bit of swinging room. And this is how I do it. I just open up the bag of compost. This is what's been tipped out of the rooting trays behind, and then I take them all out of the trays, each variety at a time. This being go to twilight, there's about 80 odd there, and as I go through, if I come across any that I just don't like the look of, that being one of them, that another, just don't like the look of it, I won't pot them up. I've got enough, I've got more than enough, because there's more out there and there's enough in there to be twice as many as I need, so there's no need to pot something you don't like the look. Here we go, all day. Well, that's that job done. Got about 480 in here. The trays are 15 trays. And what I've done is mixed, or brought the ones that were last potted in with the ones that have just been potted, so at least, like the Mary says, what's there, 6, 7, 8, 9 trays of 15, so over 100 there, and I shall just pick the batch of plants that I want, either the smaller or larger. I'll know probably in a week or so's time which ones I fancy the most, and the same for Gertrude Twilight, Noah's Trisha, and there's some Barbary Surprise down there. Not all looking as healthy as they could, so hopefully I'll be able to get enough to be able to pick out the healthier ones. And then here we've got the new Abercorn variety down there. So there's about 60 odd of that. Blight and Softer Gleam. Again, there's what was there, 5-7 trays. 15. Some Dave's Choice at the back there. Jasudi Hercules. Don't think I'm going to grow it, but I might. But it'd be good for keeping stock hold of. Some Hallmark as well. A few kiwis, more for giving away at Plants House. Not going to grow it. Same for Sandia Gold. And some Dianes down here. So that's 480 twice there. And then in here we've got the troublesome Dianes that some have rooted just, some haven't, so they've just been put in pots, which seems to work. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it's a 20 odd degree day, but the sun hasn't come onto the greenhouse yet, or it's just starting to over there. So it gives these a chance to root with the heat mat still on. And as they grow away, I'll just lift them out and put them outside or onto the back shelf here where the others are. We've still got the last 60 cuttings in there, which will probably be another week. I should put those up, hopefully by which time I can take some of these off, put those on, just move them along a bit, just a few up on the top shelf, so run out of room. So just over 1100 cuttings, all taken within 2 weeks of each other and potted within 2 weeks of each other, that I can then just pick my batches of plants out from there and hopefully supply a few plant sales and so on as well. Hope you're all doing well. See you soon. Wednesday the 14th of May, getting ready for planting. So I've got the food up here. I've got 50 kilos of Growmore, 60 kilos of poultry fast pellets, which is the fast grow, which is the seaweed and poultry. That's to go over the 2 plots that are marked out and ready. I did bring some plants up with me if I get a chance to plant them. I mean, applying the fertiliser at the moment's a bit pointless because the ground is so dry. We haven't had rain for at least a month, but it's got to go in there before I mark out canes, and hopefully at some point we'll get some rain before next week when I plant. These have come up because hopefully I'll get time to plant them, and they're just Bryn Terfel. It's going to be a bit of those, and they're just good plants, ideal for me really, but they're at that stage now that it's a case of plant them or pot them. I'm going to take the pot off with one hand. So it's a nice root ball, just there, ready to go in the ground. The plant's still nice and soft, but if I don't plant them today, then I shall have to pot them up into a 5-inch pot, and I'd like to leave them in there for at least a couple of weeks for the roots to get out properly before I plant them. So I shall try and get those in their bed. And this is me returning the tubers of the Go American and Almonds Climax that I borrowed from another plot holder and took some cuttings off. Obviously the new plot's not too bad, there's not too much grass coming from it yet, but I'm sure it will do if it rains. And everything's marked out, ready to go, so we shall get on with it. That's it for today. I've got the fertiliser on, raked it out, levelled the beds, sort of marked the paths by walking up and down. Managed to plant the 10 acre white that I wanted to get in because I didn't want to pot them up, and also 25 Bryn Terfel for the same reason. But again, all marks out. Got this one strung out ready for canes, and I've started putting the marker canes in ready for a proper go at planting next week. So I'll probably end this one here and start the next one with planting.